Hi, friends, and welcome to Good Enough 444. I'm Emily, and this is a space where we talk about healing, growth, and the messy, beautiful process of learning to believe that we are already enough just as we are. I share my own story of growing up in a polygamous cult, navigating family, faith, and freedom, and I connect it to the stories we see played out on TLC's Sister Wives. These conversations aren't just about a TV show. They're about real people, real struggles, and the power of doing our personal healing work. So whether you are here because you're curious, because you've walked a similar path, or because you are looking for a reminder that you are good enough just as you are, that you are not alone. You are in the right place. So let's dive in. All right, guys, how's everyone doing? Welcome to Good Enough 444. My name is Emily, and I grew up in the AUB, or the Apostolic United Brethren, which is the largest polygamous cult in the United States, in the world. My father is David Watson, who is the current prophet of the AUB. He is in charge of the leadership, the head guy, the big boss, whatever you want to call it. So tonight we are going to talk about episode 2 of season 20 on Sister Wives. Can you guys even believe that we made it to season 20? It is shocking, but here we are nonetheless. So this episode starts out with Mary, and she is speed dating, and I love it. Jen goes with her. Jen's got her prepped and ready. I'm watching one that is called Sister Wives, More to Love, Welcome to Speed Dating. So apparently this one has some bonus scenes. In this first bonus scene, they are talking, Jen and Mary are talking, and Jen is asking Mary, if you could go back to any time, any time, when would you go? And Mary says, I don't know, maybe the 20s. And Jen says 1920, and Mary dies laughing and says, yeah, definitely not 2020. I would never go back there. And I mean, who can blame her, right? What a god awful time that was. Mary is talking about how the topic of her coming from a plural family, growing up in a plural family, being raised in one, and then being married in a plural family. She's basically saying how it's a huge topic of conversation, and I think she's really nervous about it. I think that she's also really nervous about meeting men that know who she is. Do they know who she is? Does it bother them who she is? How do they look at her because of that? And also, at what point does she talk about who she is and where she's from and how she grew up? I think that's a really hard subject for her to deal with. Janelle is saying that it's been 2 years since her and Cody have split up, and that all they need to do is add them to title on all the pieces of the property. It's not that hard. It's actually really simple. And here's Cody. It's hilarious to me that production has him out there cutting up trees. I think they do it just to make him look like a jackass, because it's fun now to make him look like a jackass. With this new production team that doesn't have their head all the way up his ass, we're getting to see more of the real version of Cody and the real version of Robin. So it's incredibly interesting to see stuff that we just didn't get to see in the first 18 seasons. I think we got this new production team for 19, and that's really when the truth of the whole situation came out, and I am so thankful for it. Cody and Robin out there on Coyote Pass, it's just like anytime they cut to a scene with Cody and Robin, it's like, I know that we are being set up for a lie. If either one of them are talking, I feel like we're being lied to. Although I do feel like there's little tidbits of truth that are finally starting to come out. Cody wants to sell. He says Coyote Pass has just been a source of pain for him. And Janelle talks about how they all need to be put on title, and yet why that's such a hard thing for Cody. I just think that he did not want to make a decision on that until his hand was forced, which is generally what a lot of these polygamous men do. They don't want to do it if it's not their idea. They don't want to do it if it's not benefiting them in some way. And then you've got Robin in the mix, who is servicing Cody. Cody's her best customer. I think she is very, very, very manipulative. And I think that she is using Coyote Pass as a card. This is something that she has in her hand that she can manipulate with. She really doesn't want this dream of polygamy to end. And Coyote Pass is something that she can kind of keep in her back pocket to manipulate the other women and to get them to do her bidding, keep the dream alive. I'm not really sure. I think that this episode has been really interesting in so many aspects. But Janelle talks about how she didn't really think that anybody else wanted to live on Coyote Pass. Janelle was the only one that really had that dream. You know, Christine didn't necessarily care. She was in her house that she bought. Things were really rocky with her and Cody. Mary would have done it if everyone else did it. And Robin basically lived on Coyote Pass. She drove past the property to get to the mini mansion. So she could see the property on her drive to the mini mansion. Like, apparently the mini mansion is just right there by Coyote Pass. So basically, Robin already lives out there. So Janelle was the only one that was really ever considering building and making Coyote Pass her property, making it her home. So Cody goes on to talk about how Coyote Pass symbolizes the failure of their family. And that's a really hard topic for them. And something I find funny, not funny, but sick and sad, is last season, we didn't really see Robin cry at all, like at all. And now here's Robin and Cody sitting out there on the property talking about this. And what do we see? Robin just turns the waterworks on, turns them right back off. So last season, when we are dealing with the absolute worst thing that we can possibly deal with, the worst thing that any parent, step-parent, sibling, grandparent, any person, is the death of a child, of a sibling. And in every single episode that they show Robin in, dry-eyed, not a single tear. And I know that Garrison and Robin kind of went head to head quite often. Garrison was a truth teller and Robin is a truth skirter. She just skirts around the truth. I think this is really typical. You'll find this with different polygamous wives, generally the really hard wives, and they're the ones that just, like, you don't speak the truth. And if you do speak it in front of them, you get put in your place rather quickly and told that's not what your dad meant, that's not what your dad was saying, that's not how things are, even if it's truly how they are. So I think about my dad's legal wife and some of the things that have been said in front of her, or some of the lies that she has tried to tell, lie straight to my face, standing on her front porch speaking to her. And this woman is straight up trying to lie to me when I know the truth. I lived the truth. I watched the truth. I watched things play out. And I think that that's how Robin is. It's like they create this story in their head, and regardless of what has happened, regardless of what the truth is, that's their truth, and they're going to stick to that truth. Oh, puke. Robin says, I lived so close. I just kept going out there and putting my good energy out there. I just was, she'd walk the land and put her good energy. And maybe that's why Coyote passed, because there was so much of Robin's energy out there on that land. But I think that Robin is really laying the foundation for her exit out. So Cody says, maybe if we sell, they'll all be really happy and then everyone can start getting along. She says to him, you've been really hard too. she just like puts him in his place. I feel like whenever she gets the chance, I feel like she's just riding the fence. Like she is setting it up to go either way. Either Cody is going to get his shiz together and they're going to work things out, or she's going to end up going back to the AUB. I just won't be surprised if she goes back to the AUB. And honestly, if she does, I think that she'll end up marrying one of the older men for, the status of it. It's been a joke on my sister's channel that she's going to end up marrying my dad. And I swear to God, I could totally see that happening. You could totally see her leaving Cody, going back to the AUB and marrying my dad. And it's so sick and wrong, but honest to God, I could see it. I could totally see it. And why is she always thinking that she needs to be the mediator? She talks about the firecrackers going off and it's, one gets lit and it's little pop, 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 pop all over the place. And she's like, no, he didn't mean that. No, she didn't mean that. Like, why is she always in the middle of everything? These women were married to Cody for 16 years. They don't need Robin to mediate their marriages. They don't need her in the middle of their business. It doesn't make any sense why she thinks that she needs to get involved in everything. She just came in and ruined this family, just wrecked them. What in the hell is with Cody's evil laugh face? I think that he is setting it up to just be the villain in this story, and he is totally covering for Robin. And I watched my dad do this my entire life. He had an opinion. He would have conversations with my mom, and then he'd come back 4 days later and his opinion was completely different. He would change his mind to whatever the favorite wife's opinion was. This is what leads me to believe that Cody has a personality disorder, because he mirrors whatever personality of his favorite wife is. So whatever her thoughts are, if she's angry, he's angry. If she's sad, he's sad. And I think that he just has taken on Robin's persona. And so he is mirroring all of Robin's emotions and her personality. He starts to dress like her. He starts to talk like her. There's no depth to this man. He doesn't have his own opinions or thoughts or feelings. And I don't think that he's really capable of feeling anything but anger. I think he had a lot of trauma as a child, and it just plays out and is portrayed in his adult life, and it's played out and portrayed in this episode. And I mean, in all of, these episodes, the running around and the craziness all of the time appears to be a trauma response. And the fact that he can't stay grounded and live in one place, establish a life, put down some roots, and keep some security for his family is another huge sign that he is struggling. He's struggling to feel the hole inside of him, to, get the endorphins that come with the chaos. Their conversation seems so scripted to me. I think that this is a discussion that they had already had. They plan their conversations and then they just decide where to have them. Maybe production just, puts them in a spot and, okay, this is where we're going to film you guys talking about whatever they're going to talk about. They're obviously on this campaign to get the public image of them to be changed. And so, he's saying to her, so this property is like a symbol of our family failing. And so it's like he wants it to be this aha, like, oh, my sweet, shy, pretty wife, she just has had a hard time. She doesn't want to sell the property because in her mind, it's a symbol of failure. It's the sign that the family failed, that we all failed. I think that they think that it's going to bring them sympathy, that their fans are going to feel bad for them because they realize that they have failed, that their family has failed. She says everybody else really wants to sell, but she feels like she's betraying herself. And again, this comes down to her. It's her timeline. It's her feelings. It's her emotions. And that is what the holdup on Coyote Pass has been, Robin. So Cody's waiting for Robin to be ready to sell. And until then, the other wives can suck it. They can deal with it. They can get upset and angry and get attorneys and do whatever they need to do. He's over there kissing her ass, bowing down to her, giving her all of the time that she needs, and not insisting this is what the right thing to do is. The family is over. The wives have left. They have the divorces. There's no reason for them to hang on to this property. Cody and Robin can't afford to buy the other wives out. So the fact that they dragged it on for 2 years because they were waiting on Robin to be ready is such bullshit. For them to sit back and say, well, Robin wasn't ready. Well, and then Robin says, I feel like I'm betraying myself because she didn't get the rocking chair porch swing dream with her sister wives. And so she's got to come to terms with the fact that this is over before it can actually be over, before they can release Mary and Janelle of this land. And then they just lead right into Cody saying, do you ever feel like just picking up and selling it all? Do you feel like picking up and leaving it all? He wants to start new. They're leading right into the why of the big mansion, right? They're living in a mini mansion right now, which has plenty of space for them, more than enough space that truly should have her own room, but doesn't. And wow, what a joke that is, that truly had to go outside to go into the room that they were putting her in while she was staying there. I am flabbergasted that they cannot just get this child a room. If they're going to have her over, if she's going to be staying with them, she needs to have a bedroom. She is old enough that she needs to have privacy. She needs to have her own space. And there is not a chance in hell that Robin would allow that for Ariel or Solomon. She would never allow that for one of her children. Yet she's willing to do that to another child in this family. It's sick. It's absolutely disgusting that they can treat Truly that way. Robin says, I just want to have enough space so that one day our kids want to come around and maybe one day your kids will want to come around. So we're seeing that Robin is now disassociating herself from the family. So now everything is Cody's ex-wives and Cody's kids. So she is totally separating herself from the family. And I think that she's doing this because she's hurt. I think she's saying this in a way to try and jab at the kids and to try and jab at the other wives. So she is completely separating herself from the family. And instead of saying the older kids or our children, she is separating herself and her kids from Cody and Cody's kids. So Cody starts to talk about his heart being broken there. And he talks about how the family started to fall apart there. How Cody says that they had a hard Christmas there. And then Christine left. And then he picks up the phone to his son being gone. He talks about how there was a lot of really hard things in that house. And one thing that Cody says that really, really stood out to me was that he's been really lonely in this house. So he is basically admitting that the two of them are not as connected as they make it appear to be. And I said in a previous video that it felt to me like the two of them were having an affair out in the open. They are living in this plural family. Not all of the wives are paying attention, but Christine is seeing, because they live on the same street, his car at Robin's house all the time. So Christine is starting to notice that Cody is with her all the time. And Cody and Robin know that the amount of time that they're spending together isn't fair. So they've got this excitement in their relationship as if they're having an affair. Well, now all of the other wives are gone and it's the two of them together all the time. I personally think they're going to drive each other crazy. And I personally think that Robin's not going to stick around. And I think she keeps dropping us a lot of little clues. She is really just setting things up that she can walk back into the AUB and say, yeah, I wasn't happy there. Cody wasn't doing A, B, and C. I know that I can't have X, Y, Z as long as his behavior is this way. Give me a release. Let me be married to a righteous priesthood man. So then we go back to Mary and speed dating, and she sits down with the first guy. I think his name is Lee. He's super awkward. That was painful to watch. Poor guy did not know what he was talking about or how to ask her a question. He's giving her one word responses. Then it moves on to Jeff, and Jeff tries to be funny. Mary doesn't think he's funny. He makes a joke about how he has been married twice, but not to two women at the same time. And Mary goes on this long rant about how she's really funny, but she's like funny, and how dumb jokes aren't good unless they're a really good dumb joke, and how she doesn't appreciate that he made this joke about her family. And so I think that that is really indicative of the fact that Mary is not over this yet. It's only been 2 years, and it sounds like a long time when you say it's been 2 years. It's not that long. It's only been 2 years. So she still seems to feel or be really attached to the family. And I think that's why she was so upset when Jeff made that joke. Then she's with another guy named John. They seem to have a reasonable conversation. It goes into kind of a bonus scene at that point. And, she talks about how every time she comes up here, there's something new. And yeah, the Salt Lake Valley has grown and developed so much. It is so much bigger than it used to be. And there are new buildings everywhere. There are new structures everywhere. It really is shocking at the size of this state and just how much it has grown in a short period of time. So next she's with Daniel. Daniel's 37. She says, I enjoyed my 10 minutes with Daniel. He was fun. Wait, that sounded bad. I had a really good conversation with him. But she thinks that she's too old for him. He's too young for her. He's 37. She's 54. And I do agree that is a big age gap. And I also think, you know what, Mary, have fun with him. If he wants to connect with you, connect with him, have fun with him. I dated a 37-year-old at the end of last year into the beginning of this year. We had a ton of fun together. And yeah, it wasn't a long-term thing. It didn't work out to be a long-term thing, but we had a great time. I've seen a lot of jokes about older women and younger men, and I just think, you know what, Mary, hell, have some fun with him. You deserve it. You were in a shitty relationship for the majority of your adult life. You got out of it. Find some joy. Have some stress release, just have some fun with the guy for hell's sake, especially if he wants to. So next we go to Mykelti and Tony. And Christine says that Mykelti and Tony went out to North Carolina for Christmas last year. And a few months after they came back, they came over and told them that they were moving to North Carolina. Then it kind of cuts into a bonus scene with Christine and Mykelti is saying that now is the perfect time for them to move. Her kids don't have roots. They're not in school yet. She says that David's daughter Ray is moving, and Aspen and Isabel don't have kids yet. Tony won't let her live polygamy. She wants her kids to have their cousins to be friends with. They want to be closer to Maddie. North Carolina is the capital of the chess world. Tony can go there and he can essentially work doing chess teaching. Like he can be a chess instructor and he'll make money doing that. Apparently, Mykelti and Tony have had it set up to where Mykelti is going to have the babies and also have a career, and Tony's going to be a stay-at-home dad and raise the babies. That was something that I hadn't heard before until this episode. So I found that kind of interesting. Christine is obviously very sad that they are leaving. This is a really hard thing for her. So Tony talks about how, exciting it is. And then Christine does the little air quotes of, like, you are wife of the year because you're letting him move out there for his career. And I think that kind of offends McKelty, and Christine's like, oh, I shouldn't do that. You're letting him, like, this is a decision that they're making together. So ultimately, Christine is really sad, but she gets it. She understands that her kids are going to have their own lives and they're going to move on. She talks about how she didn't stay living by her parents ever. She got married, they moved, to Wyoming. She just got into her life and that was her life. And so she understands that her kids are going to do that too. And she's not going to follow her kids out there. She's going to let them move. She's going to let them do their thing. I think that is common. I think that in a lot of the polygamous families, majority of the time, the families are going to stay relatively close to each other, or at least in the same area for the most part. It's not uncommon to have kids move out of state, especially if they don't stay in polygamy. That is more, common for them to leave if they're not living in polygamy. If they are staying in polygamy, I've found there's about a 10% ratio of polygamous children that stay in polygamy. Isabel shows up, and they both cry together, Isabel and McKelty, and McKelty talks about how Isabel and Aspen are her best friends, and that's how it is growing up in polygamy. Your siblings are your best friends, and so there's a lot of family events. You do a lot of stuff together. I think that because of the way that we were raised, we weren't taught to communicate. We weren't in a very healthy environment. We were parentified at such a young age. We become really codependent on our siblings, and we need those relationships. Like, we need them to survive. I know for me, especially these last 2 years, it's been extremely hard to not have my support system like I have been so used to having a support system. I've been so close to my siblings, and then my divorce starts, my little brother dies, and all of my siblings are dealing with their own grief, living their own lives, either in bad relationships that they're struggling through, or just having their own issues that they've got to deal with. And so I went from having a full house of people, my adult children and my ex-husband, and, siblings coming over all the time. I had a niece that was renting a room in my basement, and then a second niece who lived there with her kids. Unfortunately, I shouldn't say unfortunately, because I feel very fortunate now, but at the time, unfortunately, my marriage fell apart, and one adult child had moved out, and then the next adult child moved out. And right after the marriage fell apart, then both of my nieces moved out, and then it turned into needing to rent my basement to have a source of income. I got married at 17. 3 months after my 17th birthday, I didn't finish high school. I supported my ex-husband all the way through the 25 years of marriage, to the point where he's capable of making a couple $100,000 a year, and I'm capable of making like maybe $36,000 a year. So there is so much that you learn when you get out of these situations, because you're just so uneducated. And it's really hard when you are suddenly doing life alone, or you have a little bit of help from a few siblings. And I understand, the pain and devastation that these girls are feeling as their lives start to unwind from each other. Aspen had been living out in North Carolina. She moves back, and now the other siblings are starting to move out there. And so for McKelty, she's got little kids. She wants to live by a sibling that also has little kids, so that her children have a relationship with their cousins. They have built-in best friends, which is what these girls are used to. They grew up with their built-in best friends. I totally get why Mykelti would want that and want something different. Christine asks Mykelti, did you let your dad and Robin know that you're moving? And she says yes. And then Mykelti talks about how they had tried to see each other before they left. It cuts to Cody saying that it just didn't work out, that they had been trying to meet up and see each other, and they had been trying to even meet up and see each other in St. George. And St. George, Utah would be about the halfway point from Flagstaff to Salt Lake. That's kind of in the middle. It's about 4.5, 5 hours from Salt Lake to St. George. And I think it's about 4.5, 5 hours from Flagstaff to St. George. Then Cody says, we just couldn't ever make it work. And their timeline kept moving up. And I don't know why it just pissed me off when he was saying that, because again, you hear Cody talking about something that he failed to do, and he's finding a reason why it's not his fault. It's Mykelti and Tony's timeline just kept moving up. And the weekend they were going to get together, they had plans that they couldn't break, and Mykelti and Tony had plans that they couldn't break. Basically, he's just putting this excuse out there, this reason why he couldn't see his child before she moved several states away. It's his child's fault because her timeline kept moving up. No accountability. You're never, ever going to see this man be accountable for anything on this show. And it's because polygamous men, the majority of polygamous men and other men like them out in the world that have these personality disorders, they don't know how to be accountable. They don't. They just can't find it in themselves to be accountable. It's like it will break them to their core if they have to admit that they are wrong and continue to hold true to that accountability. They just can't do it. They don't have it in themselves. Christine talks about how Mykelti is the one that has tried so hard to bring the family back together. She has, worked really hard maintaining her relationship with everyone in the family and really trying to just bring them close again and get them back together. And I used to be that sister. I used to be in that position where I thought all these magical thoughts and believed that God would heal my family, that God would bring my family back together, that it was possible for us to mend these bridges that had been broken. Now I've got a little sister that has been in that role. She has maintained that relationship with my dad. And it wasn't until recently when my dad and his legal wife flooded out my mom's basement, and then my dad just straight up lied to my little sister over text message, and then basically told my little sister to shut her mouth, to sit down and shut her mouth and not speak about things that she doesn't know anything about. And the funny thing is, my little sister is just about to finish real estate school, and my little sister knows exactly the truth of the situation, but caught my dad in a lie. And so what does my dad do? He just cuts her off. The same thing he did to me when I basically called him out for his lies and his abuse. Just cut me off. And so she tells him, no, Dad, I'm in real estate school and I know the truth of this. He's trying to lie to her and tell her that only his name is on the title of the property, even though the two other wives besides my mom, they're also titled on the property, and it's public information. It can very easily be looked up and verified. He tells her that they're just on the loan. They're not on the title. They're just on the loan. Like, he just thinks that everyone is so ignorant and that they're going to believe his lies. It's the same thing that you see Cody do. He just thinks that we're all so ignorant. He thinks his kids are so ignorant and that everyone's just going to believe the bullshit that comes out of his mouth. And then we get to see Maddie just kind of pop off on her social media, and I love it. She's basically just calling Cody out on her social media. If you haven't had a chance to look at her Instagram, get around to it because it's great. It really shows me how this isn't just my family that's dysfunctional. It's not just, my parents who couldn't get it together. It's not just us siblings who couldn't find our way. It's literally polygamy. When you are in this situation, it is so toxic and the dynamic can't work. It just can't. There's no way for it to work. I've recently started reading Kristen Decker's book, 50 Years in Polygamy, Big Secrets and Little White Lies. And this book is so damn good. It explains so many things, and it is eye-opening for me to read this book and to realize the way that she talks about how she felt as a child is exactly how I felt as a child. The abuse that she endured as a child is exactly the abuse that I endured as a child. She's the daughter of the second prophet of the AUB. It started with Roland Allred, and then Owen Allred took his place after he was murdered. And so she's the top royal polygamous family, and she grew up feeling the exact same way that I felt as a child. And so reading this story and then also watching these things play out on Sister Wives, you're talking generation after generation after generation, 6, 7, 8 generations of families that have lived this crazy, chaotic abuse in this cult, and it's not changing. Things aren't getting better. It's not any different. These children are being raised to feel neglected and inferior and not good enough. Why? Why is this being allowed? Why is this happening generation after generation? Thank God for social media. Thank God for the internet. Thank God for the ability to find out the information and to spread awareness to these issues, because this shit needs to stop. This abuse needs to stop. And the only way it's going to stop is if we speak about it, if we bring awareness to it, if we continue to shine a light on this darkness. Nico. Oh, next we go back to Mary, and she's back at speed dating. Now she's on the date with Ron, and she's talking about the things that are important to her, things that she wants to find in a guy. She seems to be googly-eyed over him. She talks about how he's dressed for the occasion. She's had dates where the men have shown up in sweatpants. I can't even imagine. I don't think that I would even continue the date if I went on a date with someone and they showed up in sweatpants. I mean, honestly, she seems pretty googly-eyed for him. So she likes that he loves dogs. She likes that he likes to travel. And my favorite part is that she likes that he's 6 feet tall. There's kind of a thing, and guys hate it if they're under 6 feet. They feel short, and women want to find a tall man. I can say from experience that it is important to date and be with someone that is over 6 feet tall. I do not know very many men that are under 6 feet that don't have some type of a complex about it. And for whatever reason, that bleeds into the relationship. Generally, they have short man syndrome. They've got some type of complex. They've got to make up for the fact that they're short. And so it comes out in their personality and their attitude. And, you know, when you're a woman, you want a man that is capable of wrapping their arms around you and helping you feel safe, helping you feel secure, helping you feel loved. You want to be able to look up into his eyes, and it's just, I just don't think I could ever do it again. I just don't know that I could ever date a man that was not 6 feet or taller. You know, don't come at me for this. Just my personal experience was not fun being with someone that was shorter than me. It was an issue for him. It wasn't an issue for me. It was a stupid issue that bled through the course of our 25-year marriage, and I just would never want to be in that situation again. So very similar to what Mary is saying, and I think again that it just shows up in their personality and it causes problems in the relationship for them. It's not generally a problem for the woman, it's a problem for the man. And so he makes it a problem throughout the course of the whole relationship. And that just isn't fun. So Mary keeps talking about it. She mentions it over and over and over again in this episode. She wants someone that is 6 feet or taller. She talks about she loves that he has a vision board, or that he knows what a vision board is. He talks about their, what's your love language. She says that physical touch is her primary love language, and that gifts and time are probably tied for second. And then, of course, they go to Cody, and Cody says, my wife knows what love languages are. I did that with her, and physical touch is for sure my love language. And I just think, bullshit, you're such a liar. You're saying that because for you, it's all about sex and, needing someone to touch you. I don't think that Cody's capable of getting really real enough with himself to understand what his real love language is. I think he is just so damn full of himself, and he just can't be honest. He can't be real. He just doesn't know how to be honest or real. So Mary seems to really get along good with Ron. Ron talks about he has a favorite place in Florida. It's on the West Coast. It's called Sarasota. I've been there before. Sarasota is beautiful. I totally enjoyed my time in Sarasota, Florida. It was a fun trip. Ron says that his primary love language is words of affirmation, and second is physical touch. So they seem to be, on the same level, essentially. Here in Utah, there was I think he was an LDS man, and he did some type of like convention or class or something, and the class pertained to the 5 love language. So it was really a big deal in Utah. I think that it was kind of the start of some type of MLM or pyramid thing, and Utah is the capital for MLMs and self-help gurus and all that kind of stuff. So it was a really big deal here for a long time. I think this guy's name was Kurt Duncan, and in his class they talked a lot about kings and queens. And so I've heard over the years people talking about, why is Christine so into, David's my king, I'm his queen, yada yada, the whole king and queen thing. And it comes from that, which is also part of the LDS teachings about men and women becoming kings and queens in their worlds, in their planets, and then they also can become gods and goddesses. And so that's also a really big deal here in Utah. So Ron and Mary seem to really hit it off. He seems to really like her, seems like he's a nice guy, and they both talk about they'll put each other down on their cards. And then the lady says that, if 2 people put each other on their cards, then she will reach out and connect them together. That kind of wraps up speed dating. Jen comes over, talks a little bit more trash with Mary. She's going to go get his number for her. Mary says, no, I think that's Emily's job. The lady who's hosting the event, her name's Emily. And again, we get to see some of that fun dynamic between Jen and Mary, which I always have a good time listening to Jen. I think she just has Mary's back, and she's hilarious. So again, Mary talks about Daniel, and she says, some of these guys I don't even need to remember. She wrote notes down for some of them. And then Daniel, the youngest guy, was like the easiest one to talk to, but she's not going to follow up on a date with him. And I think it's too bad. Mary, just, go have some fun with those younger guys. Who knows? Could turn out good. During speed dating, Jen was kind of off to the side, just, watching Mary and the men that she was speaking to. And she talks about how she pre-screened Ron because he had come in late, and they just have some funny banter back and forth. God, I wish I had a Jen in my life. That'd be great. Maybe I'd go try speed dating. I should probably learn to date now. I've been divorced for 2 years. So it looked interesting. It looked kind of awkward, and God, I don't know that I could really do it, but I don't know. Maybe I should push myself and give it a try. So after that, they go to Christine and David. They are getting ready to move McKelty and Tony across the United States to North Carolina. I don't know what the hell the pull is to North Carolina, but My cute little niece and her husband live out there. They're the ones that have the YouTube channel Under the Pines, I think. Gosh, I should double check that. My little sister moved out there with them. Now that all the sister wives' kids are out there, I might have to go out there and check that out too. David and Christine walk out the front door. There's a little Yorkie dog on their porch. Christine's like, oh, where'd this rat come from? David's like, oh my goodness, this little dog's so cute. Maybe it should come with us. These two have really funny banter back and forth. I think that their relationship is really cute. I love how much David loves to be with her and do things with her. I love that whenever David gets the opportunity, he throws little jabs at Cody. I think that's so great. So he just totally throws that jab at Cody, and I love that. I love that so much. I love that for Christine. I think it's awesome that David does that because, yeah, I think that Cody was just such a jackass to her. And now, even if it's just through the show, he gets to see that Christine has a real man and a man that wants to participate in the things that Christine wants to do, right? This is a give and take relationship. It's a two-way street. It's not just one-sided where it's always about the man. What does the man want? What's the man doing? Where is the man? He is very happily participating, bringing the fun personality, bringing the jokes, keeping things light. I love the banter between Christine and David. I think that it is fantastic, honestly. Him saying that polygamists eat dog, and so the banter between them is so funny. It is true. He does talk about the coyotes and that it could get eaten by a fox or a coyote, and that is so true. There are countless coyotes and foxes that would snatch that little Yorkie dog right up. So it is scary that that dog was out there alone. Really sad story. One of my daughters, her boyfriend's mom was out in the yard pottying the dog, and it was like a little Pomeranian dog. And they'd had this dog, I think it was like 10 years old or something. It's like 6 o'clock in the morning, and they caught this on the Ring camera, and this coyote comes in and snatches this little Pomeranian dog and just takes off with it. And that's it. I mean, the dog's gone. There's nothing that she could do. So, and she was standing right there when the coyote snatched the dog. It's absolutely possible for that to happen. I'm, surprised that this little dog's just running the neighborhood. But either way, it gave them some good content. It was funny. And they are really cute together. I love that he just is so good with her. So then we go to Janelle and Mary having a conversation over Zoom. And Janelle is talking about how she's been moving forward with her lawyer, and she knows that Mary's been moving forward with her lawyer. And then out of the blue, Cody contacts her and says, hey, why don't I just go ahead and put us all on title? So everyone's on all the titles. That way everything can be sold and split equally. And Janelle's like, wow, is the sky falling? Mary and Janelle are talking, and Janelle admits that, Cody asked her if she would be open to that, if that would be okay with her. That would obviously be the easiest thing. Just put them all on title, right? Make them all equal in the ownership, and then list the property for sale. Like, why did it take so long to get to that point? Well, we're going to find out at the end of this episode. Cody gets to the honest, real reason why they were finally ready to sell Coyote Pass. So it's funny that they drop these little truth bombs throughout the show. And then again, he just thinks that everyone is so ridiculous and naive, and that everyone's just going to believe the bullshit lies that come out of his mouth or come out of Robin's mouth. It's just ridiculous. So Janelle asks him, have you talked to Mary? Does Mary know? And he says, no, can you call and talk to Mary? And Mary's like, what the hell? Why doesn't he want to talk to me? What is, this whole, do you want to be friends? But then he's too chicken shit to call her. and talk to her about why they haven't done this yet or what their next steps are going to be. But of course, these women have to get lawyers involved. They've got to go the whole distance before the jackass is going to step up and say, okay, let's do the right thing. Let's add you ladies to title. How easy would that have been from the very beginning? My mom is dealing with this situation with my dad, and so they've purchased this property together. All of the wives sold their houses. They all bought a piece of property that has 4 houses on it. And originally it was just my dad titled on the property. And then he needed to take out a loan and pay off some debt, pay off some medical bills, pay off the legal wife's credit cards. So they take out a loan on the property, and that adds the legal wife to title. Well, after watching the way that my dad treated the 4th wife, the one who passed away in 22, and then my little brother passes away. So when the 4th wife passed away in 22, my dad rekeyed the house. So the wife dies. My sister had been living there with her 5 kids, taking care of her mom. My dad didn't even help take care of her, nothing. And 2 days after she dies, then they go in and they rekey the house. And they do it because the legal wife has a vision that we're going to go in and I guess trash the house, spray paint the walls, rip out the carpet, some bullshit. So she has a spiritual vision. And so everything that they do in this religion, in this cult, is based on righteous anger and spiritual visions and testimonies. Basically, all of this cult speak for making things okay, making really bad, evil things okay. And so Cody has his whole breakdown of why it's okay for him to treat these wives like this, why it's okay for him to ignore them for years, why it's okay for him to wait until the very end to make things legal and fair. So wife number 5, who was the favorite wife for years and years and years and got, the majority of my dad's attention, she watches the way that my dad handles the situation with wife number 4. And then with my mom, my little brother passes away. My sister takes my mom to California to Disneyland 5 weeks later to celebrate my little brother's birthday. And my dad asks the legal wife to bring in a locksmith and get a master key made on the house. Well, they don't tell my mom that they're doing that. They just bring the locksmith in. And thank God the legal wife decided to ask the locksmith to change all of the locks. So they rekeyed my mom's house, locked her out of her house. She's got 2 cats. They lock the cats inside the house, and they don't tell my mom that they've done this. Then they proceed to go to Mexico for 10 days. So they leave out of town for 10 days, and they have changed the locks on my mom's house. Well, thank God the friend that my mom had going over to take care of her cats realized that the locks were changed before they left for Mexico. So it ends up being a big throwdown. I've talked about it in one of my other videos. My sister calls my dad, loses her shit on my dad, tells him not only how disgusting and evil it is that they've done that to my mom, but also how illegal it is that they can't just go and lock my mom out of her home. They can't just go and rekey her home. So my dad ends up calling the locksmith, comes back over. The locksmith, changes all the locks back and gives my mom a new key to the house. But if the legal wife hadn't done that, then they would have had a key to my mom's house and nobody would have known. Well, the legal wife had keys to my mom's house for days. And you bet your ass she went through my mom's house. When I got to my mom's house with her, when I brought her home, there were doors open, closet doors open. Like, this woman had gone through my mom's house. How invasive is that? How incredibly ridiculous is that? And so wife number 4 ends up getting her name put on the property within the next year. I can only imagine why she did that. What, buttons she had to push and what a fit she had to throw in order to get my dad to add her to the title. But now my dad's titled on the property and the two wives are titled on the property. But of course, they're gonna, lie and talk about how it's just my dad. Just my dad is the owner of the property. I mean, this shit gets so old. Like, we know you're all fucking lying. If you're opening your mouths, you're lying. So just shut your mouth, sit down, shut up, keep your mouth shut. It really is so unnecessary to hear anything that comes out of their mouths. Unless you're doing the right thing, unless you're adding mom to the title, unless Cody's adding these other wives to the title, we don't need the runaround. We don't need your excuses. We don't need your bullshit. Just do the fucking right thing and shut your mouth. That's it. So Cody is, he comes on and he's all laughing like this is, just hilarious that he's gotten Mary and Janelle so upset. And, then he just straight up says, well, Mary's kind of a nag, so I just, ignore her. And then Mary's like, I'm going to get legal involved. And so he's like, whoa, wait a second. Like, we're going to get everyone's names on the property and we're going to sell it and you're all going to get your piece. And like, why'd everybody get so upset? Well, it's because I was ignoring them. No shit, dipshit. Learn to communicate. Why can't you just communicate with them? Why can't you just do what you're supposed to do? It is so shocking to me just how ignorant these men are. And then they just act like, oh my gosh, it's so crazy. I cut her and I don't know why she's bleeding. How dare she bleed? Wow, what is wrong with her? They do these things and then they get upset with you for having a reaction to what they do. You can't win. You're in a no-win situation. This situation with my dad, he's telling my little sister, do you have any idea what your mom has done to me? Your mom has made me spend $6,500 on an attorney. No, Dad, Mom didn't make you do that. You made you do that because you're being an unfair prick. How about you be fair and you do the right thing, and then Mom wouldn't have had to hire an attorney and you wouldn't have to hire an attorney. How about if Cody and his humble, shy, pretty wife who won't let him do bad things, how about you do the right thing and you add Mary and Janelle to the property and you sell the property? Why do you not do the right, fair thing and then turn around and blame the women for having a reaction to your unfair, bullshit, illegal behavior? How is it that everything is always blamed on the victim in this situation? These women are a victim in this situation. Here's my mom, a victim in the situation of my dad and his legal wife. And yet they're making my mom out to be the bad guy. Cody's over here talking shit about Mary. Well, Mary's a nag. Why did everyone get so upset? Wow, really? Really? What? It doesn't make any sense. Make it make sense. What in the actual fuck is wrong with these men? How and why do they think that this behavior is okay? It doesn't make any sense. These men are so fucking high on their pedestal that they cannot reason. They don't have any logic. There's no accountability. There's no logical communication with them. It doesn't make sense. They are always the victim while they are perpetrating these awful offenses against these women. Polygamous men and men in the world just like them. We get these eye-opening statements from him, though. He says, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do, so I just didn't do anything, right? The wife, the legal wife, she's not ready to sell the property yet. She doesn't know what she wants to do. So she's holding up the man, because do you think that the man just has enough balls to just do the right thing? No, he can't, because the wife who's kissing his ass, who has her head so far up his ass she can't see daylight. She doesn't know what she wants to do, or her opinion is changing. Her timeline is changing. And so these men have no idea, but they're actually puppets to the women. Not just her head is up his ass, her hand is up his ass. And she's telling him when to speak and what to say, how to say it, and he has no idea. And it's literally the exact same thing that's been happening with my dad. These women have their hands and their heads so far up his ass, he has no clue what's happening until they tell him what he's allowed to do. Or he's over here barking orders at them, and they're just flying monkeys and little pit bulls for him. They're doing his bidding, and he's making all these shitty mistakes and in turn pinning it on them. So he's getting out of having to be accountable because he's placing the blame on them. So they're just constantly blame shifting all the time, and they can't just be accountable for their actions. They can't just stop and take accountability for the shitty things that they have done. I just love Janelle. I love the shit that she talks. I love the way that she is just mocking Cody and mocking Robin. I just live for these moments with her. I think she is so hilarious. I love that Janelle, she talks about Cody and his shy pretty wife. Mary says, is she the only pretty wife? Is that a slam at us? And yes, absolutely. He is trying to give Robin this backhanded compliment and sting the other wives, and they don't care. They know who this man really is. They know him at his core. They were there in the beginning. They went through the hard stuff. Robin didn't go through any of that. And that's what's so funny when you have these relationships. You get together when you're young. You go through the trenches together. You go through all of the really hard times together. You bear all of the children. You raise the children with this asshole. And then he goes and gets this new wife, and suddenly she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's so great. He would never do that. Bullshit. You don't know because you don't know him. You don't know him like I know him. You don't know the ins and outs of the relationship. It's hilarious to watch Janelle and Mary just sit here and laugh at their expense because Cody thinks that he's like cutting these women and they just don't care. And so, Janelle talking about how she invited Cody to be part of the conversation with Mary, and he tells her, no, well, I just don't like you. And she's like, well, that's great. I don't like you either. And then Mary's shocked that they said that to each other. And Janelle's just like, I just don't care. I don't care what he says. The things that he says don't affect me at all. And so Mary says, from a therapeutic standpoint, I have learned that once you don't care anymore, you're over the relationship. And it was like, ding, 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 ding. Oh my God, that is amazing, because 2 months ago, I stopped caring. And that was such a huge aha for me. I spent 26 years. I met this man when I was 16. 16. I turned 43 this year. 27 years. Wow. I spent 27 years caring what this man said. And then all of a sudden, we have this really heated exchange, a big blow up. Something had happened. My opinion was that he had gone back on things that he had already agreed to. And I was extremely upset. We had a lot of words and then we didn't. And then it was like I woke up the next day and I just knew, like, I'm done. I don't ever want to participate in this. I don't ever want to behave that way. I don't want to engage with this man anymore. I don't care what he says. I just don't care anymore. It was just a huge breakthrough, a huge aha. I just didn't care anymore. When Mary said that, I was like, yeah, that's it. Like, I never thought I would get to that place. I thought I would care and have feeling for the rest of my life. To be 2 years out and to still, I mean, not quite 2 years, but since the divorce was legal, but 2 years since he had moved out of the home, and then to get to a place where I just didn't care anymore. Wow. That was like a 5 million-pound boulder lifted off my shoulders. So incredibly freeing. And I think it's so fun to watch these women not care, just not care anymore. And I think it's sad that they have to get to the point where they have to take legal action to make things right and to make things fair. But I absolutely understand that. Sometimes you have to take legal action because they are either so caught up in their emotions that they just want to play games with you, whether they're taking legal action against you or they're being unfair, and you have to legally make them do what they're supposed to do. And Lord knows, I understand that completely. They are only going to do what they are legally required to do and nothing more. Nothing more. Only what they're legally required to do. And a lot of times they won't even do what they're legally required to do. So then you have to take them back to court. And that is just absurd. What a waste of time. Why do you need to waste time and money doing this when there are all of these children that you could be focusing on? You could be mending relationships with adult children. You could be focusing on your minor children, on their needs, spending time with them, building those relationships. And yet, no, you're wasting your time tied up in court. You're wasting money. And why? Because your ego is so bruised, because you're so upset that she said something that just hurt your feelings. A knife in the kidneys. Wham. It doesn't make any sense. But you know what? It doesn't have to. It doesn't. You get out of the relationship, you're finally free. You can live your life. You can do your business. You can be someone that you were never allowed to be. And life goes on. Life goes on. It goes on without them, and you don't have to deal with that bullshit anymore. It's fantastic. I love that Janelle is just having the best time. She is just laughing at Cody's expense. She just straight up says that she just doesn't care anymore. She's laughing at his expense. And he just keeps giving great content to make fun of him and to make jokes at his expense. It's awesome. I love that she talks about the sale of Coyote Pass being a parting gift, and Mary looks down at her dog and says, "We're gonna get a parting gift." And Janelle says that if she had been his legal wife, that in the divorce she absolutely would have taken half of his stuff and gotten alimony, because that would have been the legal fair thing to do. And I think it's great that these two are just having such a good laugh. Hi, Kitty. Can I help you? I mean, I wouldn't, want to get in your way or anything here. Hey, pretty girl. You just need some attention. Janelle says, "It'll be so nice to say, see you later. Goodbye. I hope I never see you again." You sure as hell bet if we would have been married, I would have taken half of his assets because they would have been mine. And that's exactly right. These women worked their asses off. And so why is it fair that just because in their cult religion that they believe that everything is titled to and belongs to the man, because there's so many wives, they can't legally divide the assets, so everything belongs to the men. And God, Cody and Robin were even talking on the last season about how it's not fair that they helped to pay for all of the older kids and that nobody's around to help them pay for their younger kids. Okay, Janelle's been raising Savannah on her own. Christine's been raising Truly on her own. There's never any fair with these men. They don't do fair, and neither do the majority of the legal wives or the favorite wives. They just don't do fair, and it is absurd. It's actually absurd. And it's absurd that they believe the bullshit that they spit out. I think that that is the part that is the most shocking, is that they believe that they are victims, and they believe the trash lies and bullshit that they put out and that they say. It's insane. So then it cuts back to Christine and David, and they show a little bit of Janelle. And Christine is saying how the other day she was talking to Truly and they were just talking about life. And Truly said, well, I think I'm going to move to North Carolina. And then Janelle says, I love it. I love all the grandbabies. Bring them all out here. Peyton, you come out here, get married, find a wife. You know, Maddie's living out there and she's got her babies. And then McKelty's living out there and she's got her babies. So all of the Brown family grandbabies are living in North Carolina. Christine in the van says to David, I wanted to slap Janelle the other day because she was saying how all of the grandbabies are out there close to her in North Carolina. Peyton's talking for real about moving out there. Gwendolyn's talking about moving out there. Sorry, my big fat kitty thinks that she needs to be in this scene with me. There you go, big kitty. You get down. I love the banter that these women have, and I'm sure that, you know, people are going to say, oh, Janelle and Christine are mad at each other, and I just don't think that Janelle and Christine are mad at each other. I just think that this is some good, fun, friendly banter between these two, that they're good friends. They, you know, they really are like sisters, and so they have the ability to just joke around with each other and goof around with each other about things that are hard and personal to them. Christine is sad about all of the kids moving out there. And what does North Carolina have that Utah doesn't have? I can imagine that there's a lot of things that North Carolina has that Utah doesn't have. I do think that it is sad because Christine is so family oriented. And so it is really hard for her to watch all of the kids pick up and move, you know, across the country. Christine says something to David with the effect of, I didn't really even ask you. I just said, you know, David's going to drive. And he says, yeah, what else was I going to do? Sit home and do nothing or travel across country with you? We get to see America, baby. And they're just really fun together, you know, they're just having a fun conversation. And here's Christine just sitting in the truck with him. She doesn't have any makeup on. She's got her glasses on, and, you know, you can just tell that there's still this connection with them, that it's not this fake relationship that it was with her last husband. You know, David loves her. He has a good time with her. He just wants to spend time with her. And it's that quality time, and they're doing something that Christine wants to do. And God, imagine that, you know, doing something that the wife wants to do and not bitching and complaining about it, just going along with it and enjoying yourself, having a good time and being a good person, not throwing a pissy fit or making things hard. Christine talks about how David likes tornadoes, and he has this really crazy idea about wanting to become a tornado chaser. And McKelty and Tony do end up in a tornado in this episode, kind of at the end of this episode into the next episode. So that's really interesting to watch and to see the effects of that. But then the next scene is Cody, and he's saying Coyote Pass has got to be sold so that Mary and Janelle can be paid their fair share of it. If we can get this sold and get them paid, then we can exit this relationship and we're all free to go on to something else. Now we're coming back to Cody and Robin talking about Cody has been to the title company. He wants to show her what they've shown him. Basically, he can quitclaim deed himself off of one of the pieces of property, put Janelle on there. They're like coming up with these creative ways of how to title each one of them onto certain lots so that they are each equal owners of the property. So they each own 25%. That way, when they sell Coyote Pass, everyone gets paid an equal amount. And then he talks about, going through this triple divorce in 3 years, that 4 of the 5 years living on the property have been hard. He's taken this, big time frame and he's, squished it down into these small events. That's what his focus is on. That's what his memories of that time are. He says to Robin that he's been lonely in this house. So I think that's really eye-opening as well. It's interesting the way that they're quit claim deed switching things around, but ultimately we all know they do get it done. They get everybody on the property, they all become equal, and they get the property sold. And Cody's like, I don't know if it'll even sell, and Robin's like, I don't know why it wouldn't. And so at one point Janelle had even talked about the fact that Coyote Pass had held its value. And so that was a good thing. And obviously, I think they paid less for it than what they sold it for. I do think that they made good money on Coyote Pass. So that was a good thing for them. Now, here's Cody and Robin. They're opening their mouths. So we're, going to get a load of bullshit right here.
Being honest with you, I think Truly would come and stay if she has space. I feel like that it's really important for Cody to repair his relationship with his kids.
So they lead into him saying that he doesn't want to live in that house anymore, that there's just so much heartache and pain, and he's felt so lonely in that house. He wants to start over. He wants to have a new relationship with Robin, just kind of basically start things fresh. And he's saying that he, wants more space for their kids to be able to bring home grandkids and, have room to be. So now we're going to get all of the excuses, all of the reasons why they need the bigger house, why they need the big mansion, why the mini mansion isn't going to suffice their needs and the needs of their kids. And then he says, to be honest with you, I think if Truly had her own space, she would come and stay. Well, no shit. She's a teenage girl. How do you take a teenage girl, a young teenage girl, and make her have to go out of the main part of the house into a completely separate entrance alone out in the middle of the woods, essentially? And that's where she's got to stay when she comes to visit you. She already doesn't feel welcome in your home. She's not close to you. She's not close to Robin. And Robin doesn't speak the same language that these kids speak, and she is not easy to get along with for them. And so that's really hard. And yet they expect that Truly's going to come and stay with them. Like, they're surprised that Truly hasn't come and stayed with them. So in the next episode, and I'll talk about this in the next video, they're talking about if they make Truly room. And if the room that they make for Truly, it's going to be a guest bedroom / Truly's room. Just like, give her her own fucking room. Give her space. Why is that so hard? Why is it so hard to just do what's right for the kids? Do what's right for the kids. Give this kid her own space. Give her her own room. And why do we need all of these excuses? Why do they have to lead up? And I know, like, that they're not sister wives anymore, right? So we're going to see the dissolving of this family and what everyone does going forward. And that's got to be a storyline somehow. And then, of course, it leads back into Robin saying that she thinks that Cody needs to heal his relationship with his older kids and blah blah blah. And like, Robin doesn't give a shit. You can say all day long what you want and what you think. Your actions show what you want. The reality of this situation is these two didn't want to have a relationship with the other wives and the other children. These two didn't want that. And so they created a life that was just them. They created a life without the rest of the family. They wanted the family money. They wanted the title. They wanted the status. They didn't want to have the responsibility. They didn't want to do the right thing. They didn't want to handle the situation fairly. And so, based on results, they got what they wanted, which was a relationship with them. They didn't want to have the family. They built and grew too big of a family, and Cody couldn't take it, and so he dipped out. And that was that. The responsibility got to be too much. And you see that all the time, all the time. These men have giant egos and they build too much. They build too big, have too many kids, and they can't handle it. They can't handle it. So they go to a different wife that they think is prettier and more equipped to meet their needs. She hasn't had as many children as the original wife or wives, and that's that. They just dump the responsibility on the wife or wives to clean up, and it becomes all about them still, because God forbid they be accountable for the life that they built. God forbid they become accountable for the bad things that they've done in the relationships. They don't have the ability to do that. It's easier for them to walk away and to start a new life than it is for them to fix the life that they broke. And again, Robin has really struggled with selling Coyote Pass. She's really struggled with watching someone else buy that land and build. And she, now again, this is part of their reasoning for wanting to sell the house that they're in. So, of course, they're going to come up with every good reason why they need to, sell the $1 million home and buy the $2 million home. It's interesting that Robin starts talking about how, the pain and stuff follows you. And until you deal with what's going on in here, you're still going to have all of the pain and the upset. And that's, she's right. That's not going to go away. Cody can move as many times as he wants. He can start over as many times as he wants. If he doesn't deal with what's going on inside of him, if he doesn't deal with that childhood trauma that has turned him into a childish man, his behavior isn't going to change. So I see her, really straddling the line, trying to, I believe, walk this tightrope of keeping Cody happy, but also keeping her options open to go back to the AUB. So I'm not going to be surprised if these two are divorced in the next 5 years. I'll be surprised if they're still married in 2. I will be shocked if they're still together in 5. So we'll wait and see what happens. But I do think that the majority of this has to do with Cody's inability to deal with his issues, his trauma, his past. There are things that have happened, things that have gone on that have created this man to be a runner. He runs every time things get hard or things get painful. He needs a new job. He needs to, to move to a new house. He needs to uproot the family. And again, he's disrupting everyone else's lives. And then he's upset at them if they're upset about it. So these two are just such an ideal couple. Their ideals line up with each other. Their morals line up. Their values line up, and they just absolutely deserve each other. But they will get sick of each other. I think they're already sick of each other. And so they're going to need to continue to cause chaos in their own lives in order to even stay together. They're going to need that stimulus, that, stimuli. They're going to need to have the chaos and the crazy in their lives consistently in order to even have a relationship, in order to even thrive, because they don't have the secrecy and the escape, from the family and from the other things that are going on anymore. So now they're going to have to find that however they can, and it's going to be through toxic behaviors towards each other. I think it's interesting. Cody says, I want to move on from here. Let's move on from here. I'm ready to be done with it. How about you? And Robin says, give me a day or two. Can we pray about it? And that's like always the thing, they want to pray about it. And it's like they can come back and say, well, God said this to me, or God gave me this answer, and then it's just like, then you just have to go with it because God said, right? And never do therapy with a narcissist. Just don't do it because they learn the lingo, they learn the right things to say, they learn what things should be like, how they should look, and they're not going to make that happen, but they're going to learn to speak that language. I hear that so much with Cody and Robin. They're learning to speak the language that they think is appropriate to get people to believe them or trust them or, think that they are victims or think that they are, good people. And it's really hard and it's really dangerous. And it's, you don't know until you know. But when you get in these situations with people like this who go to therapy and they learn therapy speak, they become really, really dangerous. They were dangerous before. They are extremely dangerous now. I find it interesting that Cody says, I want room for my business. I want room for grandbabies. I want room for Truly. So Truly's number 3 on the list. And what about Savannah? They never talk about Savannah. I mean, I know that Savannah is graduated now, but she wasn't. She was still a minor at home when all of the divorces started. So why the hell isn't there room for her? Why isn't he building his relationship with her? You created this family. You are the parent. And I don't give a shit if these kids are 6 months old, 6 years old, 16 years old, 26 years, I don't care. You are the parent. The parent will always be the parent, and the parent should always do what is in the child's best interest. And it is the parent's job, it is the parent's responsibility to fix their relationship with their children. It is 100 billion% the parent's responsibility to fix the relationship with the children. And maybe sometimes the parent is in a really hard situation and they're doing what they can to fix themselves. And when they themselves get fixed, then they will fix the relationships with their children. But in this situation, that's not what's happening. These two are, creating this life. They're just moving on and they are leaving these children behind. And Cody is blaming the children for his lack of relationship with the kids. And he's not hearing the children. He's not even asking them why they don't have a relationship. He's just assuming that it's from gossip and bad talk and things like that. And that is a horrible, shitty assumption because he would probably sit down with those kids and those kids would say, no, mom never talks about you, or mom rarely talks about you. And if she does talk about you, it's not about the bad things. It's not about all of the shit that this man in his head. There's no way that these kids could be upset at him because they're upset at him. These kids are upset because someone has brainwashed them. And that's the shit that I see and have experienced all the time, especially in these situations. He walks away, he goes and does his own thing, he just fucking blows up his family, walks away, goes and does his own thing, starts a new life with a new family, and then can't understand why his children don't want to have a relationship, why his children don't respect him. And instead of just talking to his children, he just starts saying that it's because the mom is talking bad about him. The moms are causing these problems. The moms are the reason why. Bullshit. You were a bad dad. You did awful things. And instead of being a man and owning up to the part you played and apologizing to your children, and I don't give a shit what the kids say or how they act. If they if they lived in abuse, if they watched you abuse their mother and they dislike you because of that, then you go fucking fix that. Don't you go blaming the children for being upset that they watched you be abusive, that they lived in a home where you were an unkind person. where you said unkind things, where you were neglectful, where you were passive aggressive, where you were saying terrible, awful things every day, all the time. These kids grew up in an environment where they continuously watched their father cut their mother and then blame her for bleeding over and over and over again. Death by 1,000 cuts. Over and over again. He stabs at her and he cuts her. And then he picks on her and teases her and is just passive aggressive about her bleeding. And then he's upset that his adult children are upset at the kind of person that he has been. And instead of just being accountable, manning the F up and acknowledging the shitty, awful things that he did, asking them for forgiveness, he just blames them. Blames that it's their fault, it's the mom's fault. I've watched it over and over again. I've lived it. It's awful. It's a terrible way to live. And you know what? He'll just probably never be a man. He'll never experience what it's like to truly be a man. And that is sad, sick, and incredibly unfortunate. So my dad and his shitty wives, they blame my mom for the lack of relationship that they have with their children. It has to be her fault. She has to have convinced them. And it's my fault. I talked them into not having a relationship. Somehow I'm at fault as well. It just doesn't make any sense. Just be accountable for your bullshit. Be accountable for the shitty way that you lived, for the shitty person that you were, and get really fucking humble. And then fix your relationship with your children. They didn't ask for any of this. They didn't ask to be in this situation. They didn't ask to be born. You brought them into this world. You participated in it. So you man up and you fix your relationships and don't rely on them to come and kiss your ass and kiss your hand in order to fix things. That is just absolutely absurd. I could never hear Robin call him daddy again. That's just awful. He says, if mama is happy, then everyone's happy. And she says, no, no, no. If daddy's happy, then everyone's happy. So then the episode ends with Mykelti and Tony are driving into a tornado basically, and they start getting these giant size hail that hit the window, and you start to see the window just crack. So like these half circles, like the hail hits the window and it just splits into these circle patterns. My God, that is so terrifying. And, you know, Christine had talked about David wanting to be a tornado chaser. And so she says they're like 45 minutes behind Mykelti and Tony. And David pulls out the weather app and there's all these little purple dots all over the weather app. And those, each purple dot indicates a tornado. So that's what they're driving into, is a tornado. And that leads into the next episode. And it's really interesting. It's so scary. I cannot even imagine. Just, my heart really aches for them. So tell me what you think about this episode. I'm loving these episodes. I have loved Christine's book. I will have another video out on the next chapter in her book. It is probably my favorite chapter. No, I'm kidding. It's not necessarily my favorite chapter, but the chapter title I think is LDS Church's Bastard Children. And that is what we are. We are the bastard children of the LDS Church. And they do not want anyone to know about us or to remember that we exist. And so they hide us away and they get our stories taken off the news, and they just do whatever they can to keep it out of the public that polygamy came from the LDS Church. So I'll be doing that video this week, and I will also be doing episode 3. I'm sorry I'm so behind. It has definitely been really busy couple of weeks. I have a really good friend who flew in town a week ago, and so she's been staying with me, and I've just had some family stuff come up, some personal things that have come up that have been emotional and kind of hard to deal with, so I've been working through those, working with, some authority figures on certain things, and just trying to get some stuff squared away in my life. So one step at a time. I was really hoping to put out a video last week on the day that the episode aired, but here you go, guys. You're getting it 8 days late. I will definitely be making content though for each episode. I did watch last night's episode last night, and I will be watching it again tomorrow and then doing a video on it tomorrow night. So keep an eye out for that. Thanks so much for being here with me, you guys. I really hope that everyone is working on doing their healing work. I know that any of you that watch my sister and her husband Corey, that you guys hear her say that. I can promise you it is so important. I know that everyone heals differently. You've got to find the modalities that work for you. It's a process, it's a journey. I don't think that any of us ever get to a point where we can say we're healed, we're good, it's all done. I do think that we continue to make progress, we continue to learn, and we continue to build our toolbox of tools to work through the things as they come up. So I highly recommend it. I know it's really hard. I know it can be really ugly at times, but it is definitely the best thing to do. And it makes life so much easier and communication so much easier, and everything is just a lot more fun and enjoyable. So thanks for being here, you guys. Everybody have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.